Man, it seems like a never ending story what you're trying to rebuild here, but some elements do need revision, so demands it the full moon in Gemini with the Mars in retrograde. So, Capricorn, remember that you're well equipped to rebuild this and work with whatever is not thought through yet and needs changing in your concept, and that it's just the way things are right now, and it's enabling you to set it up right this time so you don't experience a clash like in the recent past where shit hit the fan and people didn't exactly account for, well, whatever crumbled here. You're doing it again in a different way that also needs different methods, and some of them you're gonna revise in this full moon period. That being said, it is a general reading, so if the message doesn't resonate with you, feel free to drop the message. If it does resonate with you, drop a comment, like, and subscribe. We're going to see how your soul is coming into manifestation, how it's integrating into your experience, analyze the energies at play with the DNA spread, which is basically a tree of life, a little modified, showing how the flux of different energies and archetypes in your situation right now is playing out. Now let's see. In the spot of the zero, that is what your soul decided it's time to embrace and experience. That is a Prince of Discs. That is getting this project going, but it also means doing your homework, setting it up right. So there's an element of due diligence in there. There's an element of, well, it's not exactly fast moving, right? There's an element of structure and growth in there that just takes time and just takes experience, right? Cherishing those experiences as part of the process. So that is the mindset you're in, that your soul decided it's time to incorporate. That's a very beautiful thing for exactly what you're here to do, right? So that's very much benefiting your situation. So you do feel capable of working with this. It's like, okay, breathe. We need to work through this. We need to see it as an opportunity to set ourselves up right for the future, so it's durable, so it's sustainable, so it's profitable in the long term. If this is not talking about a business relationship or a project for you, it still applies to a romantic relationship as well, where you're like, okay, we need to think about how we're living together, how we're working together, what we want to achieve together, and how we're setting our relationship up, right? So it applies the same way, since a relationship for you is a lot about stability because you're the cardinal earth sign. So you're always posing the question, what is the gain from that? What is the benefit from that? Not exactly always in a materialistic way, but rather like, how do I benefit from it in a sense of stability? Is there an even exchange? Is it fair? Stuff like that. So let's see how this is playing out. In the spot of the nine, that is the energy you're about to incorporate. You are learning to incorporate through this experience, and that is the moon. The moon. Huh. That's interesting because the moon is what's driving this, of course. It is the subconscious coming to light, or something in the subconscious that is influencing this. Now, if the moon is your lesson and you're here to incorporate it, my first intuition was sometimes to, well, to keep your mouth shut. Basically, that's the thought I had. It's like, speak about it when you know where it is going, because now you have to revise some decisions and probably some announcements you made where you're like, okay, I need to roll back on that one. um, it's not only about that, it was just the first intuition I had. It's like, um, the subconscious talks about the hidden, um, and if you listen closely you'll hear the hidden whisper. I don't know what Netflix series I have that from, but it's like, if you're here to incorporate that moon, it's like, be aware that there's other unknown factors at play always. That means you have to calculate with them, you have to address them, but you don't exactly have to publicly announce them always, right? Because the moon is not in reverse. It's not like something is coming to light. Whatever brings something to light, it is urging you to just be aware that there is a subconscious or an unknown level to everything, and well, work with it in a smart manner. I bet we're going to see some swords in here. I bet we're going to see some air energy playing out in here. Now let's see how this moon is also put into perspective, because the 9 is bleeding into everything in this reading, so it's going to get some connotations along the way, along the line here. Let's see how you're manifesting this. What is triggering, or what is the, well, expression of what you're here to incorporate. That's the Death card. Death card is talking about a rebirth, and that's very much what you're trying to do here, is rebirthing a project, rebuilding something, or like putting an idea into perspective and setting it up anew. Something has to go for this. So these are basically the elements that are breaking away, where you're like, I thought I could build on that. Maybe I shouldn't, So that's a good thing, actually. It's realizing something is breaking away. And the moon, as your challenge basically says, there are always some transitions, and if you're not sure that it's sustainable, maybe it's not the thing to focus on, to put out there, you know like, know your variables in a sense. Now let's see how this is actually playing out, because you got a very, like, a profound energy to come in with the Prince of Disc, where it's like, okay, I want to do this right this time, like, I'm a little careful, but your soul decides it is time to, like, approach this with care, with the proper due diligence. And then in your lesson and your manifestation, there's 2 major arcanas which are talking about, like, shifts you couldn't know about. The moon and the Death card is very much cosmic energies at play that you couldn't exactly foresee, but you kind of have to prepare for unforeseeable things. Does that make sense to you? Now let's see how this is actually playing out. In the spot of the 1, that is the thing that gets you going, the impulse you get is the disappointment. You're driven by the disappointment. That's the 5 of Cups right here. So emotions boiling up, forcing you to a change. I see that this is the appointment that stuck with you from the last experience that you had with trying this. Like, I'm talking about you rebuilding something. So this very much fits the narrative that the initial impulse is disappointment, but it can also be, if you're not exactly rebuilding it, but just building something new, which I don't exactly see. It's very much seems like a second or third or fourth attempt of generating something, even if it's a different business idea or a different relationship. It's like you're trying something new, and you're kind of disappointed about something. It's the disappointment you are dragging along from back in the day, or it is a disappointment about something that still needs refinement. It's like, oh, really? That never-ending story kind of feeling is like, again, I thought I had this bottled up, I thought I had this checked, and now something unforeseen is kind of like something is breaking away here. It's not a tower. It doesn't hit you in the face like that. It's more like, ooh, that tendency is something we have to take into account, right? Let's see how this disappointment is balanced on the other hand, what you're doing with it, how it is met in your experience. That's the Prince of Swords. Well, you're being smart about it, right? You're using that disappointment as a driving force to make better decisions, which is a very beautiful way of going about this. So even if you're driven by this disappointment, it doesn't mean that you're experiencing this disappointment. It rather says that it drives you to make proper decisions and to revise your strategy. Like, that Prince of Swords is that CEO type character. It's the one you want to embody, but to embody that, you are like, you're driven by that Prince of Discs energy, where it's like, okay, if I want to embody that, if I want to be that smart leader that makes smart decisions, I can't let that disappointment run all over me. I have to use it, for making smarter decisions, and I have to, like, do my due diligence, with that Prince of Discs, and not, like, rush into it. Even though I have to make sound decisions, I want to enable myself to make sound decisions in the future, so I have to set myself up right here. Now, what you're gaining from this in the spot of the 3, that's the insight you're gaining from this, which I kind of already addressed. Now let's see if it confirms it, matches it. Yes, it does. It's the 7 of discs. 7 of discs is talking about failure, or rather learning from failure, being afraid of failure. So it's like, what is driving you is that disappointment not to make the same mistakes again, and to prevent mistakes in the like to prevent mistakes before they happen, well, it's kind of redundant, to prevent mistakes, full stop. um, and learning from that, right? So if it's in your spot of the 3, that for me is a very internal thing, because the 3 and the 6 build the flux of consciousness that is pouring through existence. It's basically very internal, an internal realization about what failure is here to teach you, and that you got to be smart about it. With that Prince of Swords, that's what's balancing you, is like, okay, breathe. What do we do with this? How do we work with this? How can we orchestrate this and use it to our benefit? So that's a very mature way of dealing with disappointment through failure, right? It's analyzing and what happened and taking learnings from that. Very beautiful, very mature way of dealing with this. Now let's see, in the spot of the 4, the idea that gives you security, or rather how you work in with generating stability and building a home, for example, or building a workplace situation that everyone is profitable in, and catered. Let's see. Spot of the 4, dominion in reverse. That is the 2 of Wands. And the 2 of Wands basically talks about your playing fields, your options you have to fulfill your passion, asking you what way to go, what direction you want to take. And it is kind of delayed. It's like the question on how to generate long-term stability, how to build a home, or how to build a business, for that matter, right? How to make it stick is in revision here, right? So 2 of Wands talks about what general direction you want to take. So it's not so much just talking about some minor elements, but something quite profound is coming into question here, which is still the overall same idea, but the core strategy might be changing, right? So you have a business mapped out, and then realize you have to focus on this part of the business to pull the rest, when you thought this was a different strategy, where you're like, shit, I got to focus on this first so this can flourish, whatever. So it is like you revising the direction, or trying to figure out the right direction to take, also based on not just wits, because the Prince of Swords tries to be smart about something. With that 2 of Wands, he's very passionate about, so it is about how to make the most of the fire energy available, how to like keep people engaged, how to be engaged yourself, right? So like it's a redirection, and it's a redirection that needs to be done in a smart way, so people don't lose their, I want to say faith, but well, their passion, right? The energy they're willing to give. That applies to a business situation as well as a romantic relationship. It's like, how can we keep it spicy, for example? Something happened where we're like, that wasn't exactly good. I don't want to fight like this anymore, which is, in a relationship, is a failure and a disappointment, where you thought everything was fine, and then you have your first fight or whatever. Or like, I don't see any third parties here, and I would never like put something in your mind like that. But it seems like whatever project you're working on, there were some bumps in the road. Now, how do you redirect to make it sustainable in the future? And that's a concept that works for every relationship you're in. So let's see how this is met. In the spot of the 5, what is causing conflict, change, or needs to change, needs to be confronted? That is the spot of the 5. Now let's see. Yeah, 10 of Wands, oppression. 10 of Wands talks about the full completion of fire energy. Is like fire wants to progress, wants to burn. If there's nothing left to burn, fire dies. So that's why this this Ten of Wands is talking about the peak of fire energy, burning everything down, knowing very well that it's running out of food. So how does that translate into divination? Is you taking on too much, trying to solve every problem at the same time, not being able to delegate, for example. So it seems very much that your learning is in terms of structuring and, yeah, directing fire energy, directing passion. How do I get the most out of my employees? How does everyone in the romantic relationship get what they actually need? How do I not take on too much, make their problems my problems, so I like have the feeling of pulling the weight, or they have the feeling of pulling the weight? Someone here thinks they have to do it all by themselves, and that needs to change, right? Someone is taking on too much workload or too much responsibility. They want to, but it's actually not benefiting. For example, if something fucked up in your business because one guy was doing it all and was doing sloppy work, or they were doing sloppy work because it was just too much to handle for them, right? And now shit hit the fan, and it's like you can't really blame the guy for trying, but you have to solve the problem somehow. So take something off their chest, of their back, and maybe even redirect the strategy. Like, yeah, I'm talking a lot about strategy here, even though I don't see a Seven of Swords. It's not about being tricky here, it's about being smart with that Prince of Swords that is balancing this change of dominion, this change of core energy flow in whatever it is you're trying to make sustainable here. So let's see, in the spot of the Seven, that is the idea that you're very much attached to, and that is, well, what you're good at also. Mm, I feel that it does need changing, just simply because the disappointment about a Ten of Wands in reverse, like about something being very stressful and not exactly well directed, or just burnt out. That's exactly because I was talking about something being burnt out, right? So that's a metaphor. It's like either you're burning out or they're burning out. This has to change, you know? So you don't want to burn out here, which can also happen in a romantic relationship, right? Someone burning out, just feeling like they're like be- being in this relationship alone, in a sense. Now let's see what you're attached to here, why it's probably not exactly easy to flip this. Teamwork. I almost have to like roll on floor laughing for this one, because if in the spot of the Seven there is a Three of Pentacles in reverse, that seems like you are attached to the idea of having to do it yourself so it's done right, because of disappointment that is driving you from the past. So if you're attached to the idea that it's not going to work out if you're trying to delegate stuff, of course you're going to burn out, right? Of course. It's like, to have it done right, I have to do it myself. That idea is not going to be fruitful for any business or relationship, right? Because it's almost also in a relationship, it's an insult to the other person, right? If you don't, or not just in a romantic relationship, in any relationship, if you don't give them responsibility, they feel like they're worth shit, and they're not gonna invest anything in it. It's like, well, I'm prone to do it wrong anyway. I'm not being trusted with doing the job right, so no fucks given. Okay. On the other hand, if you give them responsibility and make sure that they know it's important, then they're gonna live up to that responsibility. That's what I saw in my work life. Is like, the moment you give people responsibility, they naturally feel compelled to live up to your expectations, compared to when you rather don't. They just keep slacking and slacking more and more until they fail to do even the smallest tasks, because why? No one gives a fuck about what I do here, that kind of deal. So it seems like that teamwork is largely linked to your idea of how to delegate stuff and how to have things done right. So you got to be smart about this, learn from these mistakes so no one's burning out here. And it is attached to your idea of something not working out, and being attached to that idea means expecting that something is not going to work out. And if you expect it, universe be like, there you go, this is what you were expecting, here it is, right? So you're kind of manifesting shit hitting the fan the more you're in distrust of people doing their job right. Now you got to make sure that they actually do their job right. Of course, right? You got to make sure they know what they're supposed to do. Even in a romantic relationship, it's like, okay, this is what I need from you, right? If I feel like this and this, I want you to not just like do this, but actually comfort me, and this is how you can comfort me. Like, these are your tools, please use them, you know? And so this is like, you have to empower people, of course, right? But you don't empower people by doing the job for them, whatever job it is. So that could be it, and that is something that is transitioning, and a side of you that has to die along with it, the one that tries to do it all so it's done right? Because you have the overview and you've seen that other people don't, right? But what if having the overview and directing people is your main job? Your main job is not micromanagement, whatever it is, right? Even if it's a romantic relationship, if you're micromanaging the shit out of it, it's not gonna work out well, right? So that's probably what there is to change. And it's related to that moon in a way that it has to do with the subconscious belief systems at play, with your subconscious, right? Um, let's see how it links back into it, because the spot of the 8, that is the moment when the energy flux shifts back up, and also, of course, consecutively just before the 9. So it does play a big role in how to solve this problem. Like, what do you have abundance of? 8, right? What is there in infinite supply? Is it positive or negative? It's the star in reverse. It is trying to provide purpose here. It links into the narrative I already provided in so many ways. It's like, you need to find your purpose, your direction. It ties back into the idea of strategy. It's like, what is the general direction of the business? Like, what is the purpose? What is our why, to talk in that neo business language? What is the why of our company, right? What is the why of our relationship? It's like, what do I need from you, in that relationship kind of sense. But it also talks about that 3 of Pentacles, where you're like, you have to give people the opportunity to find their purpose in what they're doing, right? And that's especially when it comes to implementers. How do you empower implementers, right? When they feel like they don't have the management role in this, they're just putting stuff in. To some, that is very rewarding. Make sure that they are rewarded for it, so they find their purpose in what they do and don't have aspirations beyond what they actually good at and what they actually like doing. You have that a lot when people think they need to be managers, but they actually don't like managing. They just think they need to climb up the ladder, which is an idea that doesn't exactly serve everybody. There's a certain attributes that you need to do, like climb up the ladder or do a management job or be an entrepreneur for that matter, right? That you think you would have to have, but if you actually don't, you're going to fail at this. So why am I saying this? It's like, make sure that people find purpose in what they do, even the little things, right? Because there is an abundance of confusion about that purpose, about the purpose of everyone involved. And since I'm always talking about a group here, because it always feels like a project reading for you, but I'm trying to flip the script and trying to also talk about a relationship, which is also working together, trying to build something, trying to make something work. Not in a bad sense, but it's actually just like, okay, we like, I do have like expectations and needs, and you have expectations and needs, and how do we fulfill this, right? And you're kind of asking a question. What the star is like: is it in balance? Um, what is the why? What is the purpose? Where are we going with this? And it seems like not exactly the purpose is changing, but the way you are experiencing that purpose. For you, maybe that purpose is not doing everything all at once, but rather focusing on the thing you're here to do, which is probably having the oversight, seeing the bigger picture, making sure shit gets done. So it's very much a project management kind of deal. Maybe there's some things you actually can give to people that find their purpose in doing that, right? And not just in completing a task as you would, but rather in creating something as they would. So these are the things, all the things that are implemented in that star card in reverse in the spot of the eight. It's like finding purpose and making sure people find their purpose. And your purpose is not to overstress about trying to do everything all at once, right? Or putting that pressure onto somebody, whatever, So roles can be reversed, that's why I'm saying it. But it rather feels like you're doing your due diligence on teamwork, on how to do project management and how to work together if it's about a romantic relationship, right? Because something is demanding that change, and you'll be like, okay, somehow something is breaking apart here, or something is leaving. Maybe an opportunity closed, waiting for another opportunity to open, so you have to be prepared for that. There's something that is going to come to light with that moon card, right? Very interesting, very, very interesting. It is about that subconscious motivation of needing to feel purpose, and that is largely relying to responsibility, a sense of responsibility, a sense of what is the value I can bring to the table, self-worth. And it is largely tied to responsibility. Jordan B. Peterson ties it to meaning, right? Meaning and responsibility go hand in hand for him. And that kind of is implemented in this reading. Make sure that the meaning and higher purpose of even the little elements of the bigger picture is being valued, is being recognized for you, as well as for your team, as well as for your significant other. So now let's see in the spot of the six, the insight that you're gaining from this, what to be creative on, what to work on. Here is the Hermit. And it's not in reverse, it's perfect. The Hermit is like, okay, you're going back to the drawing board on something. It's like you're learning. That is really cool. It's like you're learning about teamwork, how people would like, how to make people feel fulfilled, like Gary Vee would be a good resource for that to my mind, where it's more about the emotional aspect of how to support your team as a management person, right? He's talking a lot about that. It's like, make sure they know that you are working for them as a manager, because you are there for them to do your best work and fulfill their purpose. Now translate that back to a relationship in a romantic sense. It's like, make sure they know you need them for what only they can bring to the table, and make sure that they feel fulfilled in that you appreciate what they bring to the table. Now, if you need to pull back a little to study, that Hermit is talking about being in your cave and figuring shit out. So in a romantic relationship, that gets a connotation of, if you're pulling back into work or pulling back into figuring yourself out, make sure that they know that you need that time to comprehend something, and you are grateful that they have the patience to deal with you dealing with that, and that they feel appreciated even though you're not exactly super communicative in that phase right now. Because in a Hermit phase, you're just like, you're kind of in your cave, you're not exactly going out, right? So it could be that your significant other is like, you never talk to me anymore. It's like, what am I here for? Make sure they understand that you need that time to work on yourself and work on your business, right? So if you need that time, make sure they know, and that you communicate this, right? And that they feel that their purpose is fulfilled by just being there when you need them, right? Not exactly doing anything or whatever, but if you're in a hermit phase, their only job is to support you in whatever it is you're doing and make sure they know that this is an important job, that their purpose lies exactly in that. That's a good teamwork to give someone space when they need them and need it. And you're going, yeah, you're learning this. You're learning how to delegate and provide purpose, how to make sure that people know their role, but in a very positive sense, like know their purpose. Um, that's exactly what it's here for. So it's a very, very beautiful, beautiful reading, very beautiful insight, and you're going about it in a very mature and cautious way almost. Not indecisive. There is that Prince of Swords. There is the one that is trying to get it right and make smart decisions, whatever. And that's what you're doing, right? That is really what you're doing. Make sure you know your role and they know your purpose. That's a beautiful reading. Capricorn, if that resonated with you, drop a comment, like and subscribe. Check out my YouTube, my TikTok, and my Instagram channel at Daywalker Tarot. And thank you so, so much for being here. Enjoy this. This is going to be a big leap in whatever it is you're trying to build here, and it's going to be fun. In the end, it's going to work out real fine. If this is your intention you put into building this, that's perfect. Realize it. Thank you so much. I love you.